I see people are starting to trickle in. Remember, do the daily heart me up here somewhere, right? And share the live. You can do that by either clicking on the share icon in the lower right hand corner and sending it to 10 of your friends. Hello, Danny. I see you're here. And hello, Blue. Hello, Randy. Or you can hold your finger down on the middle of the screen. Your friends list will pop up, and next to each of their names on the right, there will be the word send, I believe. And you can send that out to like 30 people. Hello, Danny. Always good to see you. I, s- I slept through my alarm earlier and I missed like half the live, but I was glad to catch some of it. It was another fun Trivial Pursuit game where we found out that there's more areas of entertainment that WKRP still does not know about. So we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out what his wheelhouse is eventually. I feel very confident about that. Pardon me. And hopefully he'll join us. So, um, as always, please tap the screen. That's the way we get TikTok's attention. Usually within a 2 hour live, you folks do the brilliant job of getting me to about 100,000 likes. I know that's a lot of tapping, and hopefully more people will come in soon and share the tapping burden with all of you. So I have not been awake very long. Um, Normally I'm awake for like half the day before I go live. I've had a chance to talk and get into news. I did follow up on one story, which is going to be the opening topic. I'll get to that in a minute. Thank you, Laddie, for the heart me. Yeah, if you haven't done it today, get up to that heart me, wherever it is up here. Get up to that daily heart me. You get I looked today when I went on Danny's live and I sent my heart me. It looks like if you do all the things, which is basically send the heart me and leave a comment, you get like 65 points. And then if you haven't done it, you get a chance to set a notification for the live. You get another 20 points for that. So you can get 85 points. Blue says, not a burden, it's a privilege if you are providing free knowledge, space, and time. That's a lovely sentiment, Blue, and I appreciate it immensely. Um, so yeah, so let me officially start. Hi, folks. This is Yoda Live. My name is Yoda, spelled Yoddah, because film studios are litigious. And today, according to the clock, according to the internet, it is Friday, July 18th. Yes, Friday, July 18th, 2025. And I I want to talk about this thing that just happened. And of course, these days, when you say something that vague, there could be 5 to 10 things to discuss because horrific things are happening virtually every day. But this is something, according to the news cycle that we have now, which is 24 hours a day, this is kind of old news. And I'm not nostalgic about this, but I will just state a fact. There was a time where you only got news basically twice a day. There was like a 6 o'clock news, and then there was an 11 o'clock news, and that was it. And they were both like a half hour. And the reason for that is because most stations only presented news as a way to fulfill their obligations for their broadcast license. Because every broadcast license that was given out in America carried the burden of having to provide socially relevant content along with everything else that you provided. And everybody just decided that news was going to be the socially relevant content. And originally, news was considered a loss leader in the sense that there was never an expectation of profit being generated or any revenue being generated by the news. Um, and this problem is not new. Edward R. Murrow talked about it in 1958. So obviously it had been a problem for a while by the time he commented on it. And if you want to hear his speech, it's a fairly long speech. I think it's like 40 some odd minutes or something. But I promise you it will be worth every second of your time. One day I'm going to read segments of the speech because if you listen to the speech tonight, even though it was expressed in 1958, it will feel like it was written yesterday. And I mean, some very big issues that we are talking about now, Edward R. Murrow was talking about in 1958. But anyway, I digress. So, what I want to talk about tonight, well, this will be the opener because normally our conversations go everywhere. Pardon me. My voice still isn't warmed up, so I have to speak quietly for a while to make sure that I don't blow it out, because I do that sometimes. It's part of the Taurian curse. Not that I believe in astrology, but they write that the weak spot for a Taurus is their throat, and so it is ironic that I spend most of my days talking and made a living talking for over 40 years. Um, but I concur because that is my weak spot. I mean, my weak spots are growing exponentially every year, but my ironic weak spot is my throat. So here's the subject that I'm going to. Oh, my granddaughter is watching Yoda with me. Says it's better than rap with my son. That's grand praise. That is grand praise. I appreciate that, Randy. How old is your granddaughter? Just so I can gauge what I need to edit out of my speech. So okay, so let's get to the topic 6. Okay, so this is going to be a Disney themed show. Yeah, just in terms of no foul language being used. No other Disney reference will be fulfilled this evening. So, as we know, this happened just the other day. The dump administration burned 500 metric tons of food. And the food was burned because the administration dismantled the U.S. Agency for International Development. Pay attention to what I'm about to say. They said there was little to show for the agency. This agency has been around for 6 decades, right? And does it sound familiar that Dump assessed an agency as useless? Because during the first Dump administration, they said the same thing about the pandemic response team. They said it was costing us money for no reason. And might I remind you America has roughly 5% of the world population and suffered 20% of the C-19 fatalities. So just like then, he wrongly assessed um, he wrongly assessed an agency's value. Right. Right now, according to the UN World Food Program, there are 319 million people in the world that face starvation. And some people were originally reporting that it was 500 tons of food that was burned. That is incorrect. It's 500 metric tons of food. And what that amounts to is 1,102,311.3 pounds of food. 500 metric tons of food would feed 1.5 million children for a week. 1.5 million children for a week. I get upset whenever I throw out food. I generally shop every day or two just because I don't like to buy a lot of food and risk having any part of it go bad. That's just for me, that's my own personal standard. I also have the luxury of time where I can shop every day if I want to. The idea of burning over 1 million pounds of food that would have fed 1.5 million children for a week is something that I don't think I could find the appropriate words to describe. It is horrific. It is sociopathic, in my opinion. It is a level of cruelty that is hard to even put in context. From what I understand, there was just literally no reason for this to happen. It was just, oops, we weren't paying attention to 1.5 million starving children. Oh, we were busy with the files. We were busy pretending that we're saving America. We were busy stealing America's future in the form of the big, horrendous bill. You know, I can only imagine that running America is a gargantuan task beyond anyone's ability to fully understand. But the reason why America needs all of the personnel that it does in all the different agencies is because taking care of 330 to 350 million people every single day is an enormous task. Just think of one thing, and I'm sure we could expand it to many more things. Food distribution. Just in America, all of the different ports that get all of the different containers that then have to be put on trucks and trains and distributed to all of the supermarkets and restaurants and all the other places, food banks, all of the other places where people have access to food. Just that alone is, to me, unimaginably complex. Part of the way we address that need is by preservatives and refrigeration, because that's what helps extend the life of food. Unfortunately, there's a trade-off in terms of nutrition, but again, just understanding that it's such a monumental task, I understand trying to come up with some ways to make that viable. So preservatives and refrigeration, although not ideal, answers that need. I get that. But then let's look beyond that one monumental task. Then we have the electrical grid all over the country. Now that it's summertime, there's a huge strain on it. In the winter, there's another huge strain on it, right? And there have to be people all over the country at all times working to maintain that, just so that we could have all of the first world luxuries that we have. And if you sleep indoors, understand that that is a luxury. That is not a right. That is not a need. You don't need to sleep indoors in order to live. It's a luxury to sleep indoors, one that I am grateful for every day. And I mean that literally. I have a mantra in the morning and a mantra right before I go to sleep, which is an expression of gratitude. And on that list of things that I'm grateful for is the luxury of sleeping indoors. And if you don't think it's a luxury, talk to a homeless person. Or more accurately, as George Carlin described it, hold on. Pardon me. Or more accurately, as George Carlin described it, houseless. And he said that because he was a lover of language as I am. And he said a home is a concept, a house is a reality. So these people are houseless. And I have encountered innumerable houseless people because I live in the Northeast in a major area, and you see a lot of them. They don't look happy to me. So I understand that sleeping indoors is a luxury. So we have all of these things that we just take for granted every day, the internet and TV and running water and all this other stuff, and it's a huge task. Clean water, getting clean water. They're making more people, they're not making more water. So just getting clean water to people. Hold on. Joe Mama said, in all caps, uh, this is why I love MAGA hats. They're just so ridiculous and so predictably ridiculous. In all caps, Joe Mama wrote, the government shouldn't be taking care of anything. Let that sink in, folks. There is presumably an adult in America that believes that the government shouldn't be taking care of anything. So, Joe Mama, I will never hear from you again because I have blocked you, because that is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Hello, CompuBear, good to see you. And even though Joe Mama can't hear what I'm saying right now, I will say this for anyone else that has any doubts, although I doubt there are any. Literally, the opposite of what Joe Mama said is the truth. The government is literally there to take care of all the things that I was enumerating. That's their job, providing for the infrastructure. That's line one of the government's responsibility. So a fact that some MAGA hat, propaganda parrot, mouth breathing, knuckle dragging, homeschooled sister fucking troglodyte did not understand that is not surprising to me, because that is very consistent. That is very on brand. Hello, Zaza. Good to see you. So remember, everybody, we're actually moving kind of slow today, even though there's 62 people on here. By now, I'd normally have like 20,000 likes, but I know people are into the conversation. This is a serious topic, and you're forgetting to tap the screen. So please keep tapping that screen while you listen, and let's get those likes up. I have a live goal of 100 roses. I'm at 55 there. Excellent. We're more than halfway there. But we have all these wonderful things. We have all these wonderful things. And even though we take them for granted because we've always had them, it takes huge effort to deliver these things. And I don't pretend to understand how it all works. But again, as Barack Obama once said, we can, walk and chew gum at the same time. The role of the government is multifaceted. That's why they hire so many people to oversee so many different departments to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. And I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but I would say, as one of the priorities, making sure 500 metric tons of food gets to 1.5 million children so they can eat for a week would be a significant part of that priority. And the fact that Dump and his criminal gang allowed that food to spoil because they didn't think the agency that oversaw that was important is absolutely disgusting to me. It is heartbreaking. The level of cruelty, the vile neglect is just unbelievable to me. So with that, I'm going to start bringing people up. Let's start with Danny. Say hello. Hopefully he's available. No, I saw him there. All right. Here we go. Danny, how you doing, my friend?
All right. How you doing, Yoda?
I am excellent. I got more sleep than I intended to get.
You needed it. So that's what's important.
Yeah, I'm still at a deficit, but I'm closing the gap slowly. But yeah, so I was and the only reason I was annoyed when I woke up after being grateful for waking up was that I realized that I had missed a good chunk of Trivial Pursuit, but I did get to participate as I got ready from the chat, and it was a lot of fun. Just so that was a great way to start my day, is having fun with you on Trivial Pursuit. And everybody that's in here, the 60 plus people that we have in here right now, please tap on Danny's profile photo and give him a follow. And you're going to want to do that for several reasons that are all beneficial to you. You're going to follow a man of honor, a man of distinction who served his country for 22 years in the military, who broke his body for your protection and mine, who has the utmost respect of his peers, my undying devotion and respect, absolutely. And you're going to benefit from his live shows that happen Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Adjust that for your time zone. And Monday and Wednesday, he talks about the way of positive change, which is in his title of his profile photo. And on Fridays, he has Trivial Pursuit. And it doesn't sound like Trivial Pursuit or any other board game would be fun just on the face of it, because that's how I think of it. I'm like, whatever, a board game, who cares, right? And I only joined because it was Danny, because whatever Danny does on TikTok or anywhere else, I want to be a part of it. And so I went to the first one, and just had such a blast. It was so much fun, and it continues to be fun every week. We laugh most of the time. We laugh at the questions, we laugh at the answers, we laugh at each other. And yes, I do mean we laugh at each other. Yes, we do that. We laugh with each other also, right? But it's absolutely amazing. So that's my PSA for Danny. So Danny, we're going to do a hard downshift to the topic at hand, which is the burning of 500 metric tons of food that was meant to feed 1.5 million children for 1 week. Do you think that anywhere on this green earth there is any kind of excuse for that happening?
Well, not only is there no excuse for the literal fact that children are going hungry throughout the world, to include our own country, to allow that to happen, and to have the guts to actually order it to have it done is heartless. Shows no empathy whatsoever. But when you were describing that earlier and discussing about it, I thought about a couple other things about that burning of the food, the environmental damage that it did, uh, the burning and all that ash going up in the air, and the ecological effect it has in the area that they're doing it at, and where are they going to dispose of all that ash and waste at the end is insane. I mean, there ain't no other word to say it. It's literally insane. And have them to do that to an aid program and close it down in the first place was probably the most heartless, selfish act I had ever seen in my lifetime, and that's 75 years. So I think your concern and your disgust and my disgust is well. You're in the right area. You're in the right spot. You're telling the truth about it. Unfortunately, we don't have enough of them that are saying what you're saying. And I'm disgusted. You're disgusted. I'm ashamed. You're ashamed. I mean, this is America, land of the free, because of us people that were brave. That is that served our country to allow them to think that we never think about that. And when even overseas, even in Vietnam and Germany and other conflicts that we were in, we were actually trying to help the people that were there. We were actually feeding some of these kids out of our own mess halls and chow lines and stuff like that in the battlefield. And there were a lot of them. Trust me. And a lot of these areas where Korea and other countries, they were eating their animals to survive. And it was, and think about that for a minute. Can you imagine sitting there looking at your dog Duke and thinking that your last meal may have to be him? That
Yeah,
is, that's a crying shame that the people have to get to that point, and they did even in this country on the Indian reservations when the buffalo were being destroyed, and the last thing they had to live on was prairie dogs and their own pets. Think about that for a second. And we put them in that position that they lost all that.
right.
So that's that's my short take of it. I know it's bleak. I know it's hard to hear, but everybody needs to hear it.
I agree. I agree. And I have to thank you because I was focused on one aspect of it, and you added the environmental impact, which I hadn't even considered. So that only increases my dismay over the whole situation. It's just, it's like everything else that this administration does so blithely and so cruelly. It is without reason or justification. It's just, yeah, we just don't feel like taking care of stuff because we're busy stealing. We're busy accruing power and influence and money, so we can't be bothered with humanitarian efforts. These are human beings. I know that there's all these words that we've invented to describe either countries or political ideologies or people, and we use them in a punitive way, like, oh, they're communists, or they're socialists, or they're whatever, you know, and that way we can dismiss terrible things that happen to them because we've dehumanized them. Oh, it's a communist country. Who cares what happens to those communist pigs, right? So, but these are human beings. These are human beings that love their family the same way that we love our families. They're just trying to live the same way that we're trying to live. And the struggle for survival is a real one. And if you're lucky and you live in a first world country and you make enough money to have your basic needs met, you might not feel like you're struggling. And if that's the case, congratulations. You've achieved what there is to achieve. But for a lot of people, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. They don't know if they're going to have a warm place to sleep, a safe place to sleep. That's why a lot of these people sleep during the day, because they stay up all night, because if they sleep at night, they're vulnerable. And of course, they're still vulnerable during the day, but they're more vulnerable at night, much more vulnerable. During the day, when there's a lot of people around, they feel safer sleeping. Imagine having to make that calculation in your brain. In order to minimize my risk, I'm going to have to stay up all night and sleep during the day. So when I say sleeping indoors is a luxury, it's a fucking luxury, right? And there's a lot of people that are struggling, and they're struggling all over the world, and they're not lesser than us. We are not better than them. So we have a couple more people that are trying to get in. Thank you for putting up with my blathering. So we'll start with CompuBear and then go to John. There you go. Hi, CompuBear. How you doing?
Hey, so Defiance 13, who's on TikTok. If you don't follow him, you should. He is probably the best orator I've ever heard in my entire life. And he spoke on the same subject that you did. And if you're not crying by the end of it, and everyone I've played it for just broke out into tears afterwards, as he points out at the very end of it, if this didn't make you cry, you are not human. And he goes into a lot of detail about, he said as his comment, by sunset tonight, 8,000 children will have died
Careful.
from
Can't use certain words on
sorry,
TikTok.
unalive. Sorry. Well, I was choosing his word. But 8,000 children will be unalived by sunset tonight because they did not get that food. And the cruelty of it is beyond anything we've ever seen.
And I'm sorry, give
And
me that name again.
hold on, real quick.
And I brought John up, but maybe he came up by mistake because he never loaded up as far as I can tell.
Defiance, Defiance 13.
The number 13?
Yes, 1-3. Defiance 1-3.
Okay, Defiance 13, 300. Oh, yeah, I've seen him. I am not following him, but I'll do that now. But I have seen
Right.
much of his content.
If when we're done here, go watch his video. He is incredibly well worded, and his words are almost like poetry, which is very bizarre, but he does an amazing job at it. But
Yeah.
as he pointed out, everything was paid for, like even the transportation to get the food where it was supposed to go was paid for. The only thing that was missing was a signature. It was a signature that made the difference between the food going out and sitting there. That's all it was. And it's very clear that Trump did not want this to happen, or Trump didn't want this to happen because it was a Biden project. And anything that was Biden, he had to stop. He couldn't let Biden get credit for feeding all of these children.
Same
And
thing
not
with
to
the
mention
Iran
was,
deal from 2015. He got out of it because it was Barack Obama who got us into it in 2015.
and there's another 50 tons sitting there in several other places across the world that's waiting for the transportation. It's still good. Somebody could still sign off. The payment to have it shipped is actually cheaper than it costs to burn it, and the transportation for it's already been paid for. And all somebody has to do is just sign off on letting it go. And the cruelty of not doing that, and every day at sunset, remember that 8,000 children could have been saved. 8,000 children could have had another week to live, and maybe after that another week after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when that chucklehead came on here the other night and asked me, why do you hate dumps so much? How much time you got? Because I got a long list that stretches back to the 1970s. That's why I'm so disappointed when any minority supports this clown. It's like, hey, wake up. He hates you. He hates minorities. Period. I won't debate it because it's a fucking fact and I don't debate facts. There's a history, a track record, evidence for days that this fucking guy is a racist. And you, as a minority, are going to proudly support this guy? Fucking absurd. Sorry, I said I was going to
People,
do my best to
do people,
keep it Disneyfied, but for
right?
Randy's grandchildren. But sorry about that, Randy.
Do people not know of his racism when he owned apartments? I mean, is that just like they
Of
just
course, they don't know. They either don't know or don't want to know, because I still see MAGA hats saying, he's not racist, or what has he ever done that's racist? It's like he's done a long list of things, and only cult members don't see it because they don't want to, and also because they're exactly as racist as he is. You can't convince me that a dumb supporter is not racist, including the chuckleheads that are minorities that support him, because that's a self-hatred that they have. It was Richard Nixon's Department of Justice that went after him, his father, and the dump organization for racist real estate practices. They would not rent to people of color. They did a sting operation and caught him red-handed, and he paid his way out of that. Because sometimes the government is more interested in your money than in justice. That's just a sad reality of America. And, so there's endless stories from endless people. One of the most persistent stories is that every time Dump brought high rollers into the casino, he would clear the casino floor of any minority employees. And there's a point I don't know if you'd call it a tipping point or whatever you want to call it, where if enough people accuse you of something, you've got to start taking that accusation seriously. And you don't even need to pay attention to what other people say about Dump. You can just listen to Dump talk himself. It comes out. It comes out in his speech because it's in him. And, for anybody who creates a lot of content, I mean, I've got over 1,000 videos that I produced. I've got, I don't even know how many hours of content that I've made over the last 5 years. Your sensibility is going to come out. That doesn't mean you're going to know everything about me, but you're going to get a good sense of what kind of person I am. The more I talk about various subjects, you're going to see what my sensibility is, and you're going to be able to infer what my psychological makeup is based on the things that I say. And the same is true for Dump. Those people who don't want to see that he's racist are probably racists also. But yeah, this was heartbreaking. Like, it actually took me a couple of days to even be willing to talk about the food because it upset me emotionally so much. Because I mean, I get angry with myself if I throw out an onion because I'm like, yo, what the fuck? You bought it to eat it. What are you doing? And luckily, I rarely get that angry because I rarely throw out food. But I get so disappointed in myself if I throw out food. I think it's a crime to waste food. And in America, people throw out 40% of the food they buy. If this ain't a first world country, I don't know what is. Think about that. Think about that, folks. Just let's wrap our heads around this in a very simple way. You buy 5 bags of groceries with the intention of eating that food, and through neglect, you throw out 2 of the 5 of those bags. That's fucking insane to me. It's insane
So
that statistic exists in America.
I find it very sad because my principle is in buying groceries or eating, like cooking food, is we eat everything pretty much out of our refrigerator before we go shopping the next time. So we waste very little food because we don't have a lot of excess in the we buy what we need for the week. That's what sits in the refrigerator. At when all of that food is gone, then we go shopping again. And to me, it's economically better, right? You save money that way because you're not wasting food, but you're also not buying a bunch of food that you're not going to eat and
Yeah,
and
what is
and
the
eat a
point
lot
of
of
that? I don't
leftovers
even
that way.
understand the I don't even understand that practice. Like for me, uh like I get most people shop once a week, nothing inherently wrong with that. But if you're shopping once a week and you're throwing out food, you might want to consider shopping more than once a week. Again, I don't tell adults what to do. I'm saying you might want to consider it, right? Like I shop every day or two just because I don't want to waste food. I when I buy perishables, I buy a very small amount of them because I don't want them to go to waste. And if anything goes bad, if a lemon or a lime or an orange goes bad, I get upset. I just don't like it. I don't like wasting food. And I don't understand how Americans are so fucking comfortable wasting 40% of the food that they buy. And
I
then
have
not
friends.
wanting people to be fed, not wanting people to be helped, not wanting people to get food. And like, oh, I'm sorry, were you going to say?
No, I was just saying I have a lot of friends whose refrigerators are absolutely packed with food. I mean, I have a huge amount of dry goods and canned goods, and just in case the world comes to an end and we need them. But refrigeration foods, I don't have a lot of unless it's something that's going to stay, like ketchup or mustard or that kind of thing. But anything else, even when I buy produce, I only buy it once a week, but we use everything up before we go to the store again. I just only do that once a week because I hate going shopping.
Yeah, is if it's working for you, then there's no need to question it. You
And
know,
we don't throw away a lot of food. We throw away very little food. But I also make sure we eat a lot of leftovers. I mean, like if I fix a meal, we might eat leftovers for 2 or 3 days later.
right? And someone just said something here. Mason pointed out very accurately. It's always the pro-life people that don't care to waste. Pro-life don't care
I
to
think,
waste.
I think
I'm not sure that's
don't care.
true.
I think they don't care about waste.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I wouldn't say that's true, but in a lot of cases, he is right in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how we would quantify that, but I would say that since we have the statistic that we have about food waste in America, it's probably a pretty wide swath of people that don't seem to care about food waste. And I just think that's a product of a very comfortable first world life, and for me, it's a lack of gratitude, but I don't want to level that judgment against anyone else, but that's how I feel about myself if I waste food. I feel that it's
Is it
just a
because
lack of
these people have
gratitude.
never gone hungry? Is it
I'm
because
sorry?
these people never gone Is it because these people have never gone hungry? I mean, I know that there have been times I have and not wanted to, but there are times that I have reality wise. And it gives you a whole new aspect on, understanding it.
It could be. I mean, I think empathy is the bridge, or maybe not empathy. Compassion, I think, is the bridge between your experience and the experience of someone else. If you have compassion, it doesn't have to happen to you. You understand that it's a bad thing, or a hurtful or negative consequence, even if you haven't experienced it. I grew up poor. My mother married into middle class, and I've been comfortable. And when I say I grew up poor, I didn't feel poor. I just know the reality is that I was poor until my mother remarried when I was 7, and then we weren't poor anymore. But I never felt poor. I never went without food. I never was afraid that I would go hungry. But because of my compassion, I understand that that's a terrible thing. And I remember one time one of those Facebook polls were going around, and I never answered them because it was all data mining. But there was one question that someone posted on their profile, which was something to the effect of, what superpower would you want to have? And I said compassion. And I think that's the thing that is at the heart of what we're talking about regarding Donnie's bullshit administration, is that it's an administration completely devoid of compassion. Because if you have compassion, the decisions that you make reflect that. Look at the countries around the world, developed or not, that make sure their citizens always have food, and they always have health care, and they always have education, they always have child care. Look at how their penal system works, where instead of some jail cell where your life is imperiled 24 hours a day, you're in the equivalent of an apartment. You have a beautiful room, a comfortable bed, amenities, comfort. They feel like taking your freedom is enough to teach you a lesson. They don't have to dehumanize you. And their recidivism rates are extremely low as a result. In America, it's 67%. That's an insane rate of failure. I would be upset if it was 10%. 67%? You're doing it wrong. At that rate of failure, you're clearly doing it wrong. Let me see what else. I know I've skipped. Blue says hence Epstein. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. That's true.
Well, I can tell you that working when I was at my lowest, when I had the least amount of money, and I was basically living in a closet and living on food stamps, I went to our local church, and I'm Jewish, but I still went to our local church, and I offered to work in the soup kitchen and manage the soup kitchen so that they could go upstairs and have their church services, and I would continue to run the kitchen while they were doing that so that they didn't have to take away from that. But it also gave me advantage of one, I knew how cooking for 14 kids. I knew how to make things stretch. I knew how to take whatever anybody was willing to donate to me, eh, take that and make that into something to feed all of the people. And I never let anyone walk out the door hungry. But with the leftover food, I would take that home and eat it for the rest of the week. And that was my meal. That was how I ate. That's how I got through food stamps. But I don't know that most people have any concept that their can of tomato soup that they let sit on the shelf and rot, or those all those vegetables that are in their refrigerator could go to some place like that and they could turn it in and feed people. They just don't think about that.
Uh, Donald blah 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 says, "How about more solutions and less complaints?" Oh, I definitely have a solution. Right now, I have blocked you so that I never hear your stupid face again. All right. Um, I believe that in the case of food banks, because I support a food bank, and one of the things that they told me was that it's actually better to give them money monthly than to give them food, because a lot of the food that they get winds up going bad. So give them money, let them decide on the food, because they know what they need, they know how much of it that they need, and you could do, whatever you can spare, 5, $10 a month, more if you can. I was doing $10 a month, just every month it comes out of my thing. It's painless, and if you can't, you can't. I understand that. I'm not gonna berate anybody for not being able to do that, but if you can do that, think about doing that. Think about a way to express gratitude for what you have, if what you have is in abundance. Like, I'm morbidly obese, according to the doctor, and I agree. And the reason for that is because I don't have to skip meals. I eat as much as I want, and clearly I eat too much of it. So I'm grateful for that luxury. You know, Sustenance is a need. You have to sustain your body. You have to have a baseline level of calories to function and be healthy. But obviously, if you have the luxury of more than just sustenance, to me that is a luxury. And so if you have that luxury, spend a little less money a month on food and send it to a place that can help people that don't have the luxury that you have. Just something
That's
to
the difference
consider.
between food banks and soup kitchens. Food banks would like the money so they can purchase the type of cans and the type of food that is most needed to go out. Food banks can use your food to feed other people because they have the facilities to cook them and make them up. And just a bag of tomatoes can make the difference between a better sauce or feeding one more person, right? That you're feeding in a food bank. So I've worked several food banks, several food kitchens and soup kitchens, and so really that's the difference.
Right. That makes sense. So, either way, take your pick. Support one, the other, or both, but help people eat, help people live. You know, it amazes me that people get up in arms about the idea of taking care of other human beings. You know, oh, these entitlements and I had to work for everything, blah, 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 blah. Why? Why are you so against that? Why are you so against the idea that people can sleep indoors and eat every day? Why does that bother you? How does it affect you negatively to make sure that that happens for other people? Why do you have a resentment against someone because you had to work so hard for everything you got? You think people are in the predicaments that they're in just because they feel like being in these predicaments? You think people are choosing homelessness? The number one way that people become homeless is because of medical bills. Because we have such a fucked up society that we don't want to make sure that everyone has access to medicine and that it doesn't break you if you get hurt or sick. That's what you're on about? That's what you're mad about? It's ridiculous. Damn it. I'm there I go cursing again.
It's a moral issue, right? We as a country have made being homeless and being poor a moral issue. And so they think that they're poor or that they're homeless because they didn't work hard enough. They didn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They didn't do it. But what people don't realize is they are one car accident away from being homeless. They are one, total, losing a job away from being homeless right now. People do not realize how easy it is to go from making $350,000 a year to having your husband trip, fall, break his neck, and die, suddenly having
Easy.
no income,
Easy.
losing your job, and being, I'm
Let's
sorry,
try to, I know you're passionate, but
like,
let's try to
it,
be, conscious of the words that we're using.
yeah, and suddenly be homeless, right? You can. It is that easy. It's almost a snap of the fingers, and you can go from having this beautiful home to suddenly being out on the street. And most people don't realize how easy that is and how it could be them, especially when they've spent their entire lives in that comfort that you talk about and have never had the occasion to be at that point. They want to believe it's a moral failing because if it's not a moral failing, if it could happen to anybody and it could happen to them, that is terrifying to them.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much. And I agree with you. Um, and I would like to construct a scenario that's probably easier for people to connect to because most people aren't making $350,000. I think the average income in America is somewhere around 60,000. I haven't checked recently, or 30, whatever it is. It's low. It's too low. But um, you're just regular people, got regular 9 to 5 jobs. You're not executives. You're not business owners. You're just getting by. You're living month to month like everyone else. You make just enough money to cover the bills that you have every month. If you're lucky, you're putting a little bit away through a 401k that comes out of your check automatically, so you don't have to worry about it. You get medical benefits through your job, which is again unique to America. We're the only country that does it that way. That your benefits are dependent on your employment, and so mom, dad, 2 children, and it doesn't matter who the primary breadwinner is. Could be mom, could be dad. Doesn't matter. Statistically, it's usually dad. But again, that's insignificant. If something happens to the primary breadwinner, it could jeopardize anything. And you said it, a car accident, a heart attack, a broken leg, fall down the steps, whatever it is. Any little thing, even your car breaking down. I was almost homeless last year because my car broke down and I didn't have enough money to fix it, and I made money driving. And I had to reach out and ask for help. And thankfully, I got the help that I needed and I didn't go homeless, but it was a real thing. And I confirmed it because my landlord said, yeah, if you miss a month of payment, they go, the management company goes after you in court immediately. They don't wait. They don't like literally the day after the extension, because I think we have a 5-day grace period. I like to pay on the first, but if, for some reason you can't get it together in time, you do have 5 days. On that 6th day, they go to court, right? So I knew that, and I knew that I was facing the reality that I could be homeless, right? And that is an uncomfortable place to be, to say the least. But it takes almost nothing, which is how you know this society is structured incorrectly. It doesn't make sense to have a society where you are in peril all the time, where you are 2 weeks away from losing everything all the time. That's nuts. That's not healthy on any level. Because if you think that being hungry doesn't affect people, try being a child whose stomach is grumbling and sit in a class and try to learn something. Anyone think that's fucking possible? It ain't. It affects you down the line. It affects your mentality. It affects your psychology. It affects your physical health. This is unnecessarily stressful. And this is what the average American lives with every single day. They are just one bad thing happening away from their entire world collapsing around them. And a significant portion of the houseless population is children. Children make up a big chunk of the people who are houseless. What'd they do wrong? You want to make it a moral issue? Fuck you. It's a societal issue because we live in a sick, twisted society. That's the issue. It's not that people don't want to work. People are happy to work. It's not that people are lazy. They're just unlucky sometimes. Traffic man, what's going on, brother?
Good evening, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm just a little angry at America, but that's a day that ends in Y. So
That's
what's
kind of
going
why
on,
I've
man?
been that's kind of why I've been hanging in the comments because this topic really infuriates me. I mean, to kind of add to what you were saying, my mother was a teacher for 30 years, and she taught in the southwest end of our town, which is one of the poor sides of our town. Okay, and I can't tell you how much money my mother spent out of her own pocket to just to pay for this was she retired in 2005, so a lot of the programs for free lunches, stuff like that, I mean they weren't, there was a couple of them around, but I mean they weren't what they are or what they should be today, what they have been recently. So basically, I mean, if one of her students came to school and they didn't have lunch, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? And I can't tell you how many children my mom had fed over her tenure being a teacher. It's
Imagine putting that burden
it's
on teachers. Like their day's not stressful enough.
y- well, it's not even so like my mom taught third grade for most of her tenure. She started in first grade for the first couple years. I think she was a second grade teacher for 2 or 3, and then like the rest of her career was just third grade. My mom did get her master's degree, she continued her education in education, and but to add on top of that, like I remember my mom sitting there at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, watching her shows on TV, and then also doing plans for school the next day and figuring out, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like te teaching is not a 9 to 5 job. It is a
Absolutely
as
not.
long as you're awake job.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know,
every teacher I've ever known said the same thing. Like I, and yeah, the summers offer, that's nice. That's great. That's a great perk. But the sheer volume of work that they have, it would make most people choke. It's nonstop. Like every teacher I've ever known said, yeah, well, I don't just watch television. I watch television while I'm grading papers because I have to. I have
exactly.
no time to grade papers. I can't do it at work, so I have to do it at home. You know, that's
Right.
again, it's one of those things where I judge outcomes, right? Whatever
Yep.
idea you have, whatever system you want to put in place, okay, let's judge the outcome. If the outcome is fucked up, that means your system is fucked up. And the fact
Exactly.
that teachers have to spend money to feed children or spend their off time where you know they should be relaxing and spending time with their own family, they have to grade papers and do other shit and lesson prep and all that.
Yep.
Your system is wrong. Your system is broken. You know, the
And I
fact
will
that
tell you,
people lose houses because they get sick, your system is fucking broken.
I will tell you, growing up, throughout running into different people throughout my life, there have been a handful of people that were like, "Hey, your last name is kind of, it's not I don't want to say normal. It's not common.
Hmm.
Are you related to Mrs. And I'd say, yeah, that was my mom. That's my mom. And they would be like, oh man, I had her in third grade. Like, my parents, I didn't have supplies for school, and your mom gave me whatever, you know what I mean? Pencils and
Yep.
paper, and just what this, the fact that we have to even have that kind of a system. I'm just repeating everything you're saying, but
And
it's
here's
but
the
it's the
here's the
truth.
ultimate irony, traffic man. At the end of that system, you have the most uneducated group of people.
I know.
Like, so the system is broken every way imaginable. The process is broken, and then the results are broken.
But that's not always where. In Colorado, that's not the case. Most of California, that's not the case.
I'm
The people
talking
are
about
extremely
America.
well educated.
I don't care about individual cities or
In
states or
general.
whatever.
No,
I
my,
care
my
about
point
Yeah.
America.
my point is my point is it's state by state, and that's where I think we have a problem because we Mississippi is actually 2 years behind Colorado. Why?
Well, this states' rights
I
thing is
almost said
confusing to
irregardless.
me. Oh, thank you for not. But
Yeah, no, sorry.
the like states' rights, like I get the premise of it, but it adds complexity to an already complex system. Like, for instance, to me, since the president is a federal position, why is the election not a federal process? Why is it a state process? That's just,
Uh,
this might be way above my pay grade, but that doesn't make sense to me.
well, and I will give you an example. I hate to get off the topic of food and child
No
hunger and
worries, go ahead.
just American hunger, but it's always been confusing to me. Even when I was a young adult, being able to vote for the first time, it's so confusing to me watching leaders from other states, whether Republican mostly, that are like, we need to make it so you have to show your ID to vote. Motherfucker, I've been voting since 2002, and I have to show my goddamn driver's license every time I went to the stupid polls because that is a requirement in Ohio. Now it's state ID, driver's license, it's two forms of bills. You have to prove who you are before you're allowed to vote. And it's so confusing to me because it's like, wait, other states don't require this. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
just being a part of that system, it doesn't make sense that other systems aren't like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you step over an imaginary line, something you're doing goes from being legal to illegal. That's dumb. So we got a new
Right,
goal,
right.
100 lightning bolts. You guys have been fantastic.
Ooh.
You crushed the first two goals that I had. We're closing in on 50,000. I know we can get to 100,000 likes. I know it. 40 people, that's easy. Just keep tapping. We'll get there. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you so much.
But I will say
Ah,
this on that real quick, and then I'll
yeah.
end on it if you don't mind.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
My mother-in-law worked many, many years at our local board, at our county's board of elections, and uh, she always had an opinion about that because in the state of Ohio, and much like many other states, you have to prove who you are when you register to vote. So you have to provide identification of some sort to say,
Hmm.
yes, I am an American citizen. Moving forward, you're already registered. There makes no sense to continue that level of identification because, hey, look, obviously I'm here. This is me,
Right.
right? Kind of thing. So,
You're
but
registered to vote. You prove who you are. You vote. End of story. It's not that hard. So again,
it's not.
but the reason why easy for me to say, complexity has been added to that process is because that creates the kind of chaos that we see when it comes time to count the votes, or when it comes
Correct.
time to, remove people off the voting rolls because Republicans know that most people are going to vote Democrat, so that
Yes.
they make it harder for Democrats to vote. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's a long way to get around to a poll tax.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so Blue, you're saying there's a lot of fraudulence. Are you referring to voter fraud? Because there's actually voter fraud is almost non-existent, statistically speaking. There was a study done that I think it was like they looked at something like 50 years of voting, and it might have been longer, but for some reason 50 is sticking out in my head. So let's just say it was 50 years of voting. By that point, it was something like 2 billion votes had been cast. And the amount of fraud that they found, if I remember correctly, was point zero 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 zero
Yes.
5% or 9% of all votes cast of the 2 billion were fraudulent. That's statistically almost non-existent. So I don't know if you were talking about that or some other kind of fraud.
Well, and I hate to sound like a Republican when I make this statement. The point Blue was trying to make later, she said women that change their last names through
Right,
whatever
that's the
reason why.
SAVE
People,
Act.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, and well, so like in my state, hypothetically, you get divorced and then your voter registration has your married name. It doesn't have your maiden name, kind of a thing. It's up to the responsibility of the voter to go to the Board of Elections. I think it's 90 days before the election to update that information, kind of
But
a
they
thing.
make it
So,
very difficult because sometimes people don't have the information. People don't
well,
usually have their marriage
correct,
license or their divorce decree, or, it's just absurdity,
right,
because, and, the thing of it is that if we didn't already have systems in place that easily can track changes, then there might be an argument to make, maybe. But it's
sure,
so easy to track changes in people's reality. If you move, how come your mail finds you? Because you go to the post office and
yeah,
say, "I
right,
moved," right? So
correct.
it's not that hard. This complexity is put in there on purpose.
Correct.
So, Blue, your point is absolutely valid. Um,
And
so
I
anyway,
don't understand
go ahead.
in other states why it's so difficult, because one, Colorado, even after they put in the SAVE Act, went back and said, nope, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to stay the way we've always been, which is
And
our
that's good.
DMV is our voter registration place. And
Right.
so when you go to change your driver's license because you move, which you need to do, you also are changing your voter registration information automatically. There is no
Simplicity.
question on it. And
That's awesome.
and right, and so and you can do that with an ID as well, right, on it. So an ID only takes one form of a birth certificate. That's it, or form of ID, right? That you have to get an ID now. A one of the new driver's license with the little stars on it that says you are a citizen. Yes, you have to prove with your social security card and your birth certificate that you are a citizen, or a birth certificate that you are a citizen, not just your address. But for an ID, you can just bring in mail that you get to your house, a bill from your mortgage or your uh, bank statement, and you can get an ID, and that sets up your voter registration right there. You don't have to have all of that stuff that they're asking for. So for me being Colorado, I'm confused why every other state has to have more than that.
Well, the only thing that I can see is that it helps Republicans because they don't want people voting, especially if they know those people have
Correct.
a likelihood to vote Democratic. Why do you think the SAVE Act disproportionately affects women? Because most women, in most cases, vote Democratic, right? So it's pretty obvious to me why they're doing it, but that's the problem with having everyone just doing their own thing on all issues. Like I get states' rights, but I think there's a limit to states' rights. Like imagine if you are carrying a lethal weapon on you and you're doing so because your state says that you can, and you're standing a foot away from the border of the next state where they say you can't. The moment you step into that other state, now you're a criminal. That doesn't make sense to
Correct.
me. There's got to be a better way to do that, because the concept of states' rights, if taken to its logical extension, could mean that one state says that ending someone's life is illegal, and the next state right over says, no, it's perfectly legal here, right? I mean, technically
Right.
speaking, that's what could happen. So that's why, even though it seems like a minor issue, I don't think it is a minor issue.
If I may get back onto the topic of food and hunger in the United States of America. Um, so according to Joel Berg, who is the CEO of Hunger Free America, he has suggested that $25 billion would eliminate, I believe, childhood hunger in the United States. 25 billion.
So
Um,
so I question that number only because worldwide, the number that I saw for all hunger was 40
okay.
billion a year.
Okay.
So
Well,
and again, I don't know anything about how that number was derived, so I'm not going to say it's wrong.
sure.
I'm just saying that,
Right.
based on and I just looked this up the other day because I had looked it up like 5 years ago and I thought maybe it had changed, and it did. The number went up slightly, but
Sure.
40 to 50 billion dollars a year, sustained for at least 5 years, would end world hunger.
Well, and hypothetically, let's stick with that number. Let's imagine that number was true. Well, like 100% true. Elon Musk, his net worth is 407.5 billion dollars. Jeff Bezos is $237.2 billion. Mark Zuckerberg's 242. My point here is that these people, the tech billionaires, who Elon is on track to be the first trillionaire. These people could end world hunger. They could give the old Thanos and end world hunger, right? Why
And by
haven't
the
they?
way, that's billion with a B, Country
Yes,
Bear. But um, here's the thing. So you're right. However, they're not running things.
well, correct. No,
But let's
yes.
let's put the burden on the governments of the world and say, look, folks, just just pony it up. The most
Well, I will
governments,
say this:
most developed countries in the world could easily do this. And
the
you
United
could do
States of
it through
America.
taxation, you could do it through whatever it is, you could develop a fund, whatever it is. So here's my point in bringing that up, is that this is not a question of resources. It's
No, it's not.
obvious, when, to Musk, this is, I mean, he would feel it. He would feel $40 billion, but not like anybody else would feel it. That wouldn't end
Sure,
his world. That would be barely an inconvenience to him, right? So
correct.
using that as perspective, you realize, yeah, if the world just got together and said the idea of hunger is intolerable to us, we must end it now. It could easily do it. The world could easily do it. America could easily do it. And if we're just talking about America, which frankly would be a little selfish because this is a worldwide issue, but if we're just
Right.
focused on America, how easy would it be for the American government to just say homelessness and food insecurity doesn't exist anymore? As a matter of fact, there are more vacant houses than there are houseless people by a significant amount.
Yep.
So I want to
Well,
just say real quick, I got to run, but thank you for letting me on. Please, people, don't forget my live on Sunday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We are discussing food, so please come to that. And again, thank you. And I'm sorry I can't stick around. And
Oh, no
I
worries. Thank you so
appreciate the
much.
fact that you're talking about this subject because it's near and dear to my heart, especially after spending most of my life trying to feed the homeless and house them. So thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great night. Everybody, Copy Bears Live is lovely. It's a very soothing, very comfortable place to be. It's very positive. You don't have a bald fat guy screaming obscenities at you. It's very it's a nice change.
some guy keep telling you that you have to watch The Godfather. I am doing that tomorrow night. I am doing that tomorrow night. Listen. I will go live and I will give my review of The Godfather. We'll do that tomorrow
That's
night.
excellent. I look forward to that.
The
Yeah,
real
so
question is, are you wearing your piss pot right now?
no piss pot tonight. My neck hurts.
And by the way, the average income is 40,000 right now.
40,000, okay.
I
Yeah.
looked it up. So,
Excellent.
Well,
Thank you.
I guess to your point, the United States of America, just the United States of America. We recently, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we allocated $1 trillion to the Department of Justice, or excuse me, the Department of Defense budget.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, wh-
And here,
what would
let's put that in
like?
perspective very quickly, right?
Yes,
When Biden was in office, 1 year he increased the budget of the military by something like $50 billion, right? So it's
right.
55 billion, something like that. That alone, that amount of money alone would have paid for everybody's college in America.
Yep.
Just that
It's
increase. And to put more
yes.
perspective on it, the American budget for defense is roughly bigger than the next 10 or 12 countries combined, and
Combined. Yep.
almost all of the countries on that list are allies of America. So if
Yes.
you tell me there's a real justification for the size of the military budget, I'm going to need you to explain that to me because I
Well,
don't see it.
and so as somebody who tries to like keep up with the military technology, because I've always been fascinated by military technology,
Me
to
too.
be frank.
As much as I can't
Um,
stand war,
the
I do love the technology. It's fascinating to
correct.
me.
Yes, absolutely. Um, the U.S. military has been finding contractors to develop less expensive, how do I put this, munitions.
Mm-hmm.
So the U.S. Navy has just contracted with, I forget the name of the contractor. They just contracted with a company that is making um, air to uh, air to sea
Air-to-air
torpedoes.
armaments or whatever.
Yeah. This is like air to sea. So
Gotcha.
basically, like aircraft would drop, blah blah blah. And these are 83 inches long, and they cost roughly around, I want to say it was like $92,000 per unit to produce, which is a far cry from the current systems that we have that are well over six to $800,000 per unit to create. The U.S. Army has been looking for surface to air things. There's so many avenues that the Department of Defense has taken or has gone through to find cheaper options for munitions, because we've gotten to a point where our technology, as far as our, I guess the best word to use is munitions, has gotten so accelerated past everybody else's abilities, that now we're looking for cheaper, more sensible options. you know, and it's frustrating to see that the Department of Defense is looking for these options, but then also Congress is like, you know what, have $1 trillion.
It's
It, it,
insane.
it is.
So I'm looking up some costs of planes, just planes. So I see a story from from 2025. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So apparently, so the F-35, which is the plane that people rave about, is in the top 5 of most expensive planes,
Yes.
right? 22
I
Raptor. Okay. So the F-22 Raptor is 143 million. Let's see. Yep.
so I'm kind of, I kind of have some frustration between the F-35 and the F-22. Um,
Because they suck?
the F-20,
Because they're terrible
well,
planes?
the 35 suck. The
Yeah.
35 suck. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the 22, the F-22, um, unfortunately, it's getting a bad. It's getting shafted. Um, I want to say it was like 2016, 2015. It was before Trump. So 2014, 2015. We stopped producing F-22 Raptors in the United States of America. We had, I forget the number of them that we had. It was 300, 400, something like that. And the F-22 had never actually seen any actual combat. As a matter of fact, the only the only intercept that the F-22 has ever had in its lifespan was that stupid Chinese balloon over South Carolina. You know what I mean?
Well worth
You're
the
right, right,
money.
right. Well, yeah, exactly, exactly. So at some point, because of you know, corporations being the way they are, Boeing, they yeah, right. They convinced they convinced the legislative branch that, well, we need to allocate money for a new generation of fighter, because see, China's over there trying to develop a sixth generation fighter. Russia, they're trying to develop a sixth generation fighter. And the problem is, most aircraft, most if not any aircraft around the world could not compete with the 22. The F-22 was such an
I'll
advanced
go a step
aircraft.
further than that. You bring up F-22, I'll bring up F-15. The
Oh,
F-15
yes, sir.
the F-15 has been dominant in the air for over 50
Hmm.
years. It has almost never lost in a head-to-head contest with anyone. The plane is now, technologically speaking, it's not as impressive on paper as the 22 and the
Sure.
35, right? The 35 is like from the fucking Twilight Zone, the shit that it can do, right?
Correct.
But it can't fly half the time because it rains half the time and it's vulnerable to rain, which you should have fucking thought
Yes.
of that, don't you think? Since it rains half the fucking time, maybe develop a
Yes.
plane that can deal with rain.
But
But
but see, yeah, that's the
here's
thing
the
though.
point though.
And
Here's the whole point.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
We're spending money on all this shit, and most of it, and again, you Boeing, Lockheed Martin, bring up any manufacturer, it doesn't matter, because here's the reality for most of
Right,
their shit. When something rolls off the lot after they finish building it, it goes directly to the boneyard because they've got no place for it.
right.
So you're
Right.
just building
And I
shit
will
to
tell
build it.
you,
You're just giving all these huge multi-billion-dollar contractors corporate welfare instead of feeding
yes.
people.
Correct, correct. And here's one thing that I will tell you that I am kind of frustrated with. The Fairchild A10 Warthog 2,
Amazing
one of
plane.
my favorite aircraft. I
What a
had all of the
workhorse.
video
Almost
games back in the 90s.
indestructible.
Yes, absolutely,
You know, you
absolutely.
can you can
And
blast that thing half to hell, but it'll still finish the mission and land back home. And
I
and
I
and
will
that's
tell
the
you,
plane that the
yes,
average combatant is terrified of because that's the plane that they see. They don't see the 22s, the
yes,
15s, and anything else because they're 20 to 50,000 feet in the air. You can hear them, you
correct.
can hear the explosions because of them, but you generally can't see them. What you see is the
And
Apache helicopter, and you
yes.
see the Warthog, which is a very intimidating looking plane. And once it gets going, it will ruin your day very quickly.
Well, and that's a very
I know we're losing viewers, but I love
excuse
this
me.
shit, so I got.
Yeah, I apologize. I know the topic was hunger, and now we're on aircraft. I'm sorry, um, but the important thing with like the A10 is not only was it dominant when it came to taking everything out, right?
Close
The
air
simple
support,
fact
nothing beat
of
it,
the psychological side of it, you
right?
would hear those twin Pratt and Whitney engines screaming, and then all of a sudden you would hear, and
Yeah, that was the
and
30
then stuff
cal.
would just
That's the 30 gal. What do they call it? The
yes,
Vulcan
the
gun.
Vulcan, the GAU-8,
Yeah,
which
otherwise known as the
funnily enough
Blockbuster.
is made by a beautiful company that makes washing machines, General Electric.
Yeah,
Um,
well, oh, you mean the
they
12th
like to
largest
make things
military
that spin.
contractor in the world?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Not the people
Um, but
they're known for light
Here's
bulbs, but
the
sorry, folks, that's not what they're rich
yes,
for.
they're also known for putting your lights out.
Yeah.
But here's the
But
sad part about all this that we're
Go ahead,
talking
Danny.
about here. Here's the sad part about this. We are replacing the equipment that is still in good use because they pay for new stuff, and then we're taking this old stuff that we consider that is still great. Then we can still keep using it, but we're selling it to other country for a fraction of what we to recoup some of our money, and some of those countries are selling it to our enemy.
correct.
Right.
You know, so
And I
holy
think it's really important.
holy
Danny brings up a
shit.
very good point. Iran's Air Force is still using F-4 Phantoms.
Because they're great planes.
You know, they well, and I will say this: they also had I want to say like a handful of F-14 Tomcats. They no longer exist
Great
because in
planes.
one of our recent airstrikes, we made sure they didn't have any more,
I
kind
mean,
of a
the F
thing.
16, the F 18,
But
name it. And it's not just the planes themselves. What makes America so dominant in the air is the training that the pilots go through.
absolutely,
Which are here.
And I don't know if anyone's ever seen the videos of the tests that a jet fighter pilot goes through, but I'll just give you a hint. These people are superhuman. They're not normal people. They have the
no,
fucking
they're not.
eyesight of eagles. They have the reaction time of a mongoose. They have the strength of a fucking elephant. They have, I mean, these and they only key. It's so easy to wash out of these programs. You could be in the top 1,000, like you want, like the best of the best of the best, and then go to these trainings and wash out because you're not good enough for them.
Right.
Like when you see the centrifugal training that they do and people just pass the fuck out from the G-force, like in a jet plane, and I've experienced this because I flew in a propeller fighter plane called the Marchetti, the 260, I think. It's a small plane,
Okay.
it's a prop plane, but it is a combat plane because it's built to be a combat plane and it's got hard points on the wings for the armaments, right? So it can't do what the F-15 could do. It can't level a city, but it can uh, drop your house around you, and that'll make you unhappy, right? But when I was up there, I experienced 4.5 Gs, which just simply means 4.5 times my body weight, right? So imagine 4.5 of me sitting on my chest. That's what I felt when I was up there. And these guys routinely, even though they do have the pressure belts to help them with this, they take 11 Gs, 11 G forces while
Mhm.
they're doing these combat maneuvers and all this shit.
I
And you know what's even crazier than them? The guys that fly the stunt planes, and they take the same G forces without the pressure suits.
Right.
I can't take 2 to 3 Gs on a stupid roller coaster.
Right.
You know what I
And
mean? Like,
here's the interesting thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because you reminded me, because this was 2002. I There's a company called Air Combat USA. I found it accidentally because I was flying an F-15 simulator at the time at home every night, like 3 hours a night. I was doing this,
Jane's
and the
Combat Simulations.
no, the Jane's is good, but it's not as
Okay.
good as the what they call it,
I
Mo
I I
Moam
I know what you're talking about.
Modern Air Combat
Yes.
was the one
Yes.
that I flew because that was based on actual schematics. In
Okay.
Jane's,
Okay.
you could still do stuff that defied physics, but you couldn't in
Correct. Yes. Yes.
modern aircraft. If you yanked the stick, the screen would go blank because it was signifying that you passed out, and then your plane would
Okay.
crash because
Okay.
that's what happens when people
Of
pass out when
course.
they're flying.
Yes. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right. So this was a real hardcore actual trainer that the military used, right? And modern air
Okay.
combat. So I have the sound of F-15 engines just completely in my head. I know exactly what they sound like. And uh, that in that simulation, uh, uh, I was like really into getting better at air combat maneuvers, right?
Okay.
Because, that's how you get better at the game. You have to learn how to fly, right? And
Right.
so while I was searching for air combat maneuvers, I accidentally fell on Air Combat USA, which is a company that allows you to get in a plane and have mock dogfights with another person, right? And it's a two-seater, right? So the instructor takes the plane off and lands because you need a license to do that. But once you're
Okay.
in the air, and I mean a minute after takeoff, they're like, okay, take over. So I was actually flying.
That's so awesome.
And so, it's still the coolest thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of cool shit. So it's like flying mock, like it's six, you go 6 times. You win three, they win three. I'm sure that always happens. But what happens is once you lock on to the guy and your target stays on the guy long enough, then that plane starts to smoke to signify that it's been hit,
Nice.
right?
Sure.
And it's all light. It's, we're actually just beaming light at each other, but literally all of the maneuvers that you saw in Top Gun was the shit that I did. Okay, ailerons,
Oh my
loops,
God.
all that
Yep.
shit. It was wild. Split S's, all that shit, right? And yeah, so like the guys that do that shit for real, the real Tom Cruises of the world that like this is what they do for a living,
Hmm.
they're not normal humans at all. They are
Well,
so beyond regular humans.
and I got to tell you, my brother's friend, he was the valedictorian of his of my brother's graduating class in 2006. He gave up a full ride to the Ohio State University. I'm sorry, the Ohio State. I know they get mad if you don't say that like that. Um, um, he gave that up, and he flies C5 Galaxies. And I will say this. I give utmost respect to the fighter pilots, but I mean, somebody that flies a 6 city block massive aircraft like that, and I've seen some of the maneuvers that they've done that they do with those massive aircraft, and it's like you look at them and they're I forget what it's called. There's this like quick little turn they do, and you look at them and you see them in the air coming at you, and then all of a sudden it just looks like the aircraft has stalled in the air, and then it just kind of goes a different direction. And I could not, I can't even imagine to put myself in the mindset of being able to do something like that. It's impressive.
Well, there's a Soviet plane. Um, I think I don't know if it's the MiGs, but one of the planes, it might be one of the SUs, I forget, but one of the planes does this maneuver called a Cobra.
Oh,
Which
the
in the
SU,
first Top Gun, that maneuver that he did, which they called slamming on the brakes, by the way, that doesn't exist for
right.
for the F-18. But this one plane did that where it was flying, and then they would yank the stick so that the plane would invert, so the jets were now coming this way, and it would stop the plane,
Yes.
and so anyone pursuing it would now suddenly be in front of the plane, and then lights out, right? So yeah,
The
it's called
SU-35.
the Su-35. Thank you. I had a feeling it was one
Yes.
of the SUs, but yeah, that maneuver is called the Cobra, and it's insane. It's insane, and 99.999999999% of humans that tried that would puke, pass out, and probably drop.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Just the physical force that exerts on the human body is insane. Like there's if you ever notice when astronauts are taking off in a rocket, the reason why they're sitting in the position that they sit, which is what led to the Craftmatic adjustable bed, by the way, is because
Correct.
scientists figured out that wave position of your body uh, has the least impact against G forces, right? So because when
Yep.
you think of a rocket being launched, like the G forces on the body are out of this world, no pun intended. But so these people that are astronauts, these people that are fighter pilots, they're just a level of human that nobody even understands how unique it is.
And I will tell you, for the astronauts, they take it one step further because at least with the aircraft pilots, the jet engine is a very controlled system. You know what I mean? It's a very, very controlled air in, fuel, compression, exhaust kind of a situation. When you get into like the space shuttle, for instance, it was we're going to spray hydrogen and oxygen and ignite it and then put a cone so that it forces it out in the, you know what I mean, in one little direction here. And these people were literally riding a controlled explosion into outer space.
Yeah. Well, that is almost exactly like a jet plane. Like if you uh, think of where the pilot sits, and then just take off the wings and the fins, you'll realize he's on the tip of a rocket.
Right, right,
That's what a
right.
fighter pilot is. A fighter pilot is paid to control a rocket, and not only is he in control of this outrageously complicated piece of machinery, but then he has to keep his wits about him while people from the ground are firing weapons, and then other planes are trying to take him out. And if you've ever seen a dogfight with even three planes on each side, it's mayhem.
Right.
And that's why when you hear recordings on YouTube, the pilots are always screaming. And not screaming out of fear,
Well, I
screaming
get it.
because their adrenaline is pumping so hard in their system that that's
Yes.
the only way that they can communicate.
Well, and I will tell you, the pilots of our past, the ones that flew the F-86 Sabre, the absolute daredevils that got behind the stick of an F-104 starfighter. Like modern aircraft, the beauty about modern aircraft is you have systems on board that will help keep the aircraft somewhat stable. You know what I mean? There's assistance throughout many systems on the aircraft. 1960s. was like the Wild West of jet airplanes. Like Boeing, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, they were just like, here's a new aircraft. The amount of aircraft that went through R&D with the United States Air Force from the end of the Second World WAR to like 1975 is just absolutely asinine if you think about it. And all of these aircraft, I mean, just look at Chuck Yeager in the X1, the Bell X1 that they, that literally was a rocket airplane.
Yeah.
That man had to sit there
And
and hold
I
it
was
so
going to
it wouldn't
say
just
that I was
fly
going to say
apart.
the only people crazier than fighter pilots are test pilots.
Yes.
Because what you're telling a test pilot is similar to what they told the astronauts. Because here's a little known fact about landing on the moon: they weren't sure if the moon's surface was solid, so they
Correct.
knew that there was a possibility that they would just disappear under the
Yeah, poof
surface.
into the dust.
That's it. You're
Yes.
done. All this time, money, resources, energy, training, preparation, all this shit, and you might be just done the moment you get there. And the fighter
Yep.
pilot, a test pilot, is similar because it's like, yeah, just so you know, this thing could blow up
Yep.
while you're sitting in it,
Well,
and we'll never find you after that happens.
correct. One of my favorite videos was from back in like the 1950s when they had the test pilots testing the ejection seats. They weren't in an aircraft.
I've
It
seen
was
that
just,
one. Yeah.
yes, it's just some guy sitting there, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, boo, there he
Yeah.
goes, and it's like, holy crap, dude! Give your body up for science. I mean, shit.
So here's something that really, like, when I thought about it the first time a few years ago, I found it amazing. So we couldn't figure out how to fly something heavier than air until 1903, right? And when you think of the conflict after that, the major conflict after that, World War One, starting what, 1914, something like that, 1917, whatever it was. I think it was 1914. And so in that short time, when you get to those first combat planes, those pilots were chucking armaments by hand, right?
Sorry. Yes.
They were throwing out, to boom boom stuff, right? And then we figured out how to split the atom somewhere around 1930 something, 38 or so, 35. And then Hiroshima. So that span from we just figured out how to fly a plane to we are using weapons that rely on splitting the atom was 43 years.
Yep.
That's
Yep. Well,
fucking nuts.
and see that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. The B-17 during WW2, that was a commuter aircraft.
Right.
That was designed to be a commuter aircraft, and because of the situation we were in at that time, they basically retrofitted them. They stripped them and turned them into what a lot of Americans can recognize. You know what I mean? It's not it's not something that your great grandfather or grandfather would get on and fly to California, kind of a thing.
Right.
You know? Um, yeah, just and to add to your point, well, you said what was it, 1903? I believe it was the Wright brothers made the Kitty Hawk flight.
Yeah. Although
How many
they
years
ripped
later?
off a German design, but yeah, they get credit for it.
No, they did. No, they did.
You
Well, and listen, they're from Ohio. I get it. But um, what was it? 70 years later, there were people walking on a different planet. Which I know that and a lot of people will come at me because I know technically the moon isn't a different planet,
but still, it's
hypothetically, but
66
it's
years.
not it's not Terra. We're not stepping on dirt on this
Yeah,
thing in
yeah.
that we live on, that
I
we've
was
lived on our
5 years
entire
old when
lives.
that happened. 5 years old. I watched it on television. And the only reason
I,
I knew it was important was because all of the adults were like quiet while they were watching the television, and I actually saw it. I don't remember how much of it I
I'm
saw, but I know that we were all watching it.
I'm very jealous that you got to witness that because my experience on television with the space program was the Challenger in 1986.
I was watching that
You,
too.
you know what I mean? So and granted, I was only 3 years old, but like it was the same situation where I realized there was something wrong because my mom and dad were just like planted to the television,
Yeah,
watching
yeah. I was
watching it all
20,
day.
21 and a half years old at the time. But here's what's interesting about that is that by that time this was the third shuttle launch, and it had very
Yes.
low ratings because people were all like, "Yeah, we've seen this already," right? And then
Yep.
I remember that I just had it on because I used to sleep during the day, so this was getting close to the time where I went to bed. But I remember I was having my cocktail for the day, which even though it was daytime for me, this was the end of my
Eh,
day. So um,
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
yeah, so I was very fond of what was it, Sambuca and Seven Up, which is
Okay.
no surprise that I have type 2 diabetes now. But anyway, um, I'm watching it with my Zambu, and I also belong to two different book clubs, so I always had books around me at the time. So I'm reading, it's on in the background, and I remember I got up to go to the kitchen, and I came back, and there's a puff of smoke in here, and I go, that doesn't look right. But that was it. That was like I was like, yeah, that
Right.
doesn't look right. I didn't think that, oh, they're all gone. That didn't sink in for like another 20 or so seconds. But that was wild
Right.
to have seen that live on television. It was also wild that they had gathered around all these school children because a school teacher for the first time was on one of
Correct.
those flights. So just crazy. That wasn't Sally Ride, was it? That was someone
No,
else. McCullough?
no.
Christy McCullough?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
Christy McCullough. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sally
That
Ride was
was
the first
so
female, and
Right.
Christy
correct.
McCullough was the
Correct.
first
But I
teacher.
won't tell you how old I was. I won't tell you. So I mean that you already know I was middle aged by that time.
Yeah. I mean, you're only 15 years
Well,
older than me, so you're not going to shock me.
well, and see that was NASA's kind of trying to rekindle the interest in space travel.
Yeah,
Was they had
yeah,
picked her to go to space, and
right.
unfortunately,
They
you
just wound
know,
up
um,
traumatizing children.
yes, but I will tell you, the in 2011, the last launch was STS-135. Let me see, it was which one was it? Atlantis was the last one, and I have always been fascinated by the space shuttle. That whole thing. Like when I was a kid, there were other kids that had like Ferraris and all that bullshit, posters in their wall. I had the iconic. Oh my God, what was the astronaut's name? Where he untethered from the shuttle and made the whole orbit around the Earth untethered from the shuttle. Oh my God, I can't remember. It's a very famous picture. It's the astronaut not tethered to anything, and he's just kind of he's in I hate to use the term jetpack, but he has that system around him to kind of keep control. Oh my God, it eludes me because I'm so old and I can't remember. um, but if you see the picture, you'll immediately recognize it. It's a very famous picture from NASA. But my point is, growing up in the era of the space shuttle, I was very fascinated by it. I had a picture of Discovery on my wall, stuff like that. And in 2011, I had a very vindictive boss. Like this guy was not a nice person. And I had set up my vacation at the beginning of the year because because when they schedule shuttle launches, they don't just do it the day of kind of thing. It's predetermined. And I knew that I wanted to go witness one, at least one space shuttle launch. And I thought to myself, why not go to the last one? It makes sense for me. And my boss came up with some BS nonsense where I know I put in for vacation in January. However, I couldn't get the time off and this, that, and the other. And luckily enough, we were in the technological scape to have smartphones. So at I want to say it was like 8:45, 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I stopped working. I walked over. I got my some sort of Android phone, and I went to the live feed of that launch, and I watched it, from my toolbox at work. And um, I still regret to this day that I just didn't show up for work and go down to Florida to watch it take off. But um, man, somebody said Bruce McCandless. I think that sounds right. Um,
So I actually did see
yeah,
a shuttle launch in person, albeit it was far away, but I was in Florida and it was somewhere
yes,
around like 2000, 2001. I'm trying to find
okay,
the actual date, but I have footage from that I took from my phone and a couple of photos. It's so far away, but you could actually make it out. But that
sure.
was pretty wild. I'm trying to look it up right
The,
now. I'm on Wiki.
this photo that I have up, hold on, kind of got weird. Stupid YouTube or stupid TikTok. Here you go. This photo right here. I have it up. That photo right there.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes, that is one of the posters I had on my wall as a child because like it just completely encapsulated my imagination. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Of
To
course. I
to to
mean,
to just
that's if that's not going to
humans
do it, what does, right? Like, yeah, no, it's
are not
what
here.
we're
You know what I mean?
capable
Exactly.
of. There's a book that Phil Donahue wrote. I think it's called Being Human or On Human Being, something like that. I bought it.
Okay.
I read it a long time ago, like in the '80s, and one of the things that he talks about is like how amazing humans are, like what we can do, and all of the things that we've accomplished and created and invented, and the art and the music and all that stuff, and how sad it is that some of that innovation goes to harming other human beings.
Yes.
Because the same planet
And
that developed Michelangelo and Mother Teresa also developed Schmittler.
correct. And it's very to get back to the point of your life, I guess. It's very frustrating that we can spend all of that money on I don't want to say frivolous things because none of this is frivolous. Any kind of scientific discovery is an advancement in the human race. But we're getting back to a point now where we're pushing that stuff off so that only a certain amount of people can have all the things,
Right.
you know. Um, I was listening to a podcast earlier today. Hey, apparently, the the mRNA research that was skyrocketed by C-19. The current administration has now defunded all of that. And the prospect of that research was that mRNA vaccine. Can I say that word? Sorry, I don't want
I'm
to.
not even sure. Who knows?
Okay, okay. The mRNA vax. We'll just say that.
There you go.
Um, that there was a lot of promise that they could end up creating uh, inoculants for cancer. inoculants for many diseases that
Well,
people around the
all
world,
that research is
you
down the
know,
drain now. It's all gone.
correct. No, yes, it's been defunded. And it's like, what are you doing?
And
Like
think
this
about it.
isn't great.
There are people that are in the middle of their trials and their treatment.
Yes.
And now,
Yes.
too bad,
Well,
you're out of
and
luck.
so
This thing that we've been
and so the,
developing for 20, 30 years and that has kept you alive now, sorry.
in the toilet. And the thing that frustrates me is the leaders of our society. I say that with air quotes, believe me. They're saying that Americans need to work longer and blah 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 and all this, that, and the other. Don't you want us to be healthier? Like would it not be logically sound that if you want a working class to work longer, that you would then make sure that they're healthier and that they are capable of working longer, kind of a thing. I don't want a situation where people have to work into their 70s and stuff. That's not what I'm advocating
I
for. But
reject the notion that people need to work longer.
oh, no. And listen, like I said, I'm absolutely not advocating for that at all.
No,
But
I get you. I
I'm
get
trying.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To their side of their belief, like, if you want me to work well into my 70s, would it not make sense that I could get some sort of a mRNA inoculation, to where the ailments that I may see later in my life are now no longer existent, so then I could be a more productive worker? That's the part that really pisses me off about the whole situation,
I got you. Hey, WKRP, good to see you. Um, if you want to come up, please request up. So here's what I think, and it's going to sound like a joke, but it isn't. The work week needs to be 2 days, and you get 5 days off. That
I'm
would
cool
be
with that.
smart. That would be a good way to structure your society, because this sickness that exists in America, where everything's got to be about the hustle and more and more and more and more and more. That only benefits the people that sell you shit. Doesn't
Yep.
benefit anybody else. It is just making a better battery in the matrix. That's what that's about. And they've convinced people that it's a good idea. That's how you get these idiot coaches out here talking about, oh, you gotta hustle, you gotta want it bad enough.
Yep.
Hey, how about this? Make life easier.
Listen, that idea of hustling and wanting it more, that works fantastic on the football field. That doesn't work on the field, on the game of life. That's
And
that
and
those
and
those are two
football
separate
is
situations.
absurd.
It
Football
is.
is absurd. Oh, let's give you permanent brain damage 100% of the time, but let's keep this going
Yes.
because it's entertaining.
Well, correct. Um, and listen, I will
I
tell
mean,
you,
wait,
from
by
a
the way,
very young age.
is that any better or different than gladiator games in Rome?
No, no, it's just modern gladiators. I mean, that's what it is. It really is.
I'm about
You
to
know,
do a deep dive
um,
into the Roman Empire because there are so many parallels between the Roman Empire and other empires who have fallen and America. So many
sure.
dangerous and alarming parallels. What we're doing right now, just to paint a broad picture, is absolutely unsustainable. There is no way that the way the American I want to say I can't say culture because there is no culture here, but the way American society is operating right now is literally not sustainable. You cannot
100%.
have this upended society where a handful of people have everything and most people are struggling to survive. That's not going to work long term. It's not going to
It's not.
work. Like I
Well,
know Dump and his ilk are loving every minute of it because they're getting everything that they want. They're getting their money. They're getting their power. They're getting to express their abject cruelty. So good. They're getting what they want. Congratulations, you feckless pieces of shit. But the rest of us are fucking suffering. Hey, Steven from
Correct.
last night is here. Let's say hello to Steven real quick. Steven, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's my birthday today, and
Nice.
I've
Happy
seen.
birthday.
Hey, thank you. I have been watching the news roll out like it was waiting to give me good news that tears Donald Trump down. But on a serious note,
By the way,
regarding
how
Donald
old a
Trump's,
man are you today?
I'm 36 today.
36. Nice.
I,
You've been old enough to
Congratulations.
be president for a year. I'd vote for you.
well, thank you very much. But
Same.
on a serious note about Donald Trump's horrible medical condition, I just want to wish him clots and prayers.
Ha. So I have a different take on that. It's actually something that I posted in the wee hours of what is now yesterday. I want him to live another 79 years, and here's why.
Oh.
Here's why. Hear me out. Hear me out. I know it sounds crazy, but
No, go ahead.
the only reason I want him to live another 79 years is so that he could feel the consequences of his horrifying behavior. I want the oligarchs to get to the point, which is happening right now, but I think it's going to still play out a little bit longer, where they don't find him useful anymore. Because the only reason
God.
that Dump is in office at all from 2016 on is because the oligarchs found him a useful idiot, right? And they exploited it for everything they can. But I think they've come to the end of their exploitation with regard to Donnie. They will find other people to work their magic, but I think they're done with him. So once that happens, once he is citizen Donnie Dump, he is now going to be vulnerable to all of the allegations that are still waiting for him, because all of these indictments didn't go away. Some of them did, but not all of them did, right? And I think he might wind up having to answer to Jack Smith eventually. Again, no guarantee of any of this, but of course, I would rejoice if I opened up the obits tomorrow and his name was in it. However, I would be happier if he lived another 20, 30, 40 years and had to suffer from being a convicted felon again, of maybe being held for crimes against humanity, because that's how this session of Yoddah Life started, was talking about the 500 metric tons of food that he burned. And for those of you who don't know what metric tons are, because that's kind of confusing, because America's the only country in the world that doesn't use the metric system, that's 1.1 million pounds of food that could have fed 1.5 million children for one whole week. They burned it from neglect. I want him to feel that.
It's also how we measure his waist size.
Yeah, when people
Yeah.
say I look 35, I'm like, yeah, only on the metric system. But
Yeah, put your glasses on. That's what I thought.
but yeah. So Stephen, I'm glad you joined us. We're right at the tail
there you
end of
go.
things.
Oh,
But
wonderful. I'm glad I made it in.
yeah, of course, come back anytime. Happy 36th
Thank you. I had such a
birthday.
great time yesterday.
Yeah. No, when we had a great time with you, we always appreciate funny, kind, smart people who have a sense of humor and can make us laugh. And you definitely did that. Your fanny pack full of rainbows, was it? That was just hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah, that was great. So for tonight, good night. We will definitely talk soon. All right. Traffic man, you've got your hard hat on, it looks like.
Pit spot. That's his pit spot. He did for me. I know why he did it. So.
Yeah. Well, but we all get a treat out of it.
Yes, sir. It is real, by the way, too. It is a real surplus.
Nice.
Real quick, I do want to say in closing, that whole what you were mentioning before, the hustle, the get out there, the go out there and earn it kind of nonsense crap. I worked two jobs for 17 years of my life, from the age of 19 until I was what, 35, 36, something like that. I will tell you, don't do that, because the downside of trying to make that I missed so many life events with my family because I was just at work. I was just perpetually working. It's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those situations where I absolutely regret having those two jobs for as long as I had to. And if there's anybody out there that thinks that that they should have two jobs constantly to make ends meet, to afford a home, to afford an automobile, whatever rent, whatever it may be, to putting food on the table, that's not the society that we should have. We're not set up to have people that are working multiple jobs. That's not what society should be, especially here in America. You know, like I get it. Like if you're starting out, like I started my job, the job that I'm still at right now, I started when I was 19. Um, I don't expect to make like top dollar at the age of 19, but like I was in my early 30s and I could not, like at that point in time, my wife had come into my life. Now we weren't married, but she was living in my home. We couldn't make, we were like right at the edge of being able to afford a house. That's why I had to continue working two jobs while she also worked. So, you know, the idea of the American dream, owning a white picket
Oops, suddenly your signal is breaking up.
fence, house, all that stuff, man, that shit's until we're, oh, I apologize.
No
Oh,
worries.
there we go. Okay. So with that, I will end. I'm going to drop
Uh,
down.
Excellent.
Thank you,
All
sir,
right.
as always.
Thank you. Have a great night. Danny, final thoughts, my friend.
Well, it's been a good live, and even though the subject matter was hard to talk about, it needed to be talked about. It was worthwhile, and like many things that we've been talking for the last several months, and we're going to be talking in the future. Unfortunately, it's going to, like you said, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse before it gets better. And
Mhm.
I'm hoping and praying that one way, shape, or form, when this is all over with and then our national nightmare is over, that there's a country left worth protecting and fighting for in this country. That's my biggest prayer, is uh, that we're not divided anymore, which, like you and I both agree to disagree sometimes. It's going to be hard to bring us together. We've never been together as the United States of America, and uh, and our history in America, I'm truly ashamed of in many ways. So, I even in the wars that we said we won, we really lost in the end.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
we may be the supposed to be the world greatest at everything, Star Spangle, cherry pie, and all this other stuff. But when it comes down to it, we're coming in this world naked and we're going out this world naked. We're not going to have a pot to piss in or the window to throw it out when it's over with. So,
Very
anyway,
true.
I am always, as usually, proud of being with you. Our friendship is worth to me more money than I can ever tell you. More. I can't tell you how much your friendship belongs
Thank you.
to
Thank
me.
you. I appreciate
Me.
that. I feel the same.
So you I'm not going to say more because I don't want to get you teared up. I just wanted to make sure that you get some good rest. I'm
Yeah,
glad that you, not that I missed you earlier in my life, but I'm glad you got some well
yeah,
deserved sleep that you needed. You're
yeah.
still behind,
Yeah, I'll
and
get there.
I hope
I'll get caught up. I just get out of balance sometimes because I'll just keep my foot on the gas too long for too many days in a row, and then, it just has to
catches
get
up.
it has to get leveled out.
Right. Plus, on top of that, I understand with the diabetes. I'm diabetic myself. That takes a toll on your body in itself without even getting the rest that you
Yeah,
really
yeah,
need.
yeah.
So, anyway, we'll talk to you tomorrow night. I'm sure you'll be
Absolutely.
back on
I hope so.
for
With any luck.
chill Saturday. For chill Saturday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tomorrow I'm gonna find some pleasant stuff to talk about. So, as always, a pleasure, Danny. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks.
So, Traffic Man made me think of something, um, and that thing led to other thoughts. So here we go. And before I get into it, Cynthia, you've been making so many comments. I appreciate it. Thank you for your participation in my live. Thank you for being here. All the people that came up on the panel and spoke so beautifully and eloquently on so many different subjects. The people that do the daily heart me's and give the gifts and tap the screen. It means the world to me. I don't ever take it for granted. And of course, your time is the thing. The fact that you chose to spend time here with me is just magical to me. So when Traffic Man was speaking, I was thinking about the 1978 song Dust in the Wind by the group Kansas. And one of the lyrics in that song is, all your money won't another minute buy. And for anyone who believes that money will make you happy, I can tell you that it's impossible for money to make you happy, right? Money is just a tool. It's a necessary tool, especially in a first world country where you have to pay for where you live and you have to pay for what you eat and you have to pay for everything that you want in your life. And um, I don't necessarily begrudge the idea of having to work for a living, but the way things are now are completely upside down, in my opinion. The fact is that the only thing that's ever going to make you happy are the relationships that you have with the people that you care about. Nothing else. You can enjoy a good meal at a good restaurant. You can enjoy a fancy car that you buy. You can enjoy designer clothing. They will never make you happy. All the jewelry in the world will never make you happy, right? If money made you happy, because I like to boil things down to their essence and sometimes say things that sound oversimplified and maybe even naive, but this is the math in my head. If money had the power to make you happy, then everyone with money would be happy. And we know that that is absolutely not true, right? Because if you have money or you don't have money, the same thing is going to happen to you. Either you are going to get sick or hurt and eventually perish, or the people that you know and love are going to get sick and hurt and eventually perish. That's a guarantee. No matter how much money you have. Steve Jobs threw millions of dollars at his cancer and it did nothing. It accomplished nothing. The earth reclaimed him as it does all of us. That's the persistent rumor. That's the name of my podcast, The Persistent Rumor. And the way I got to that name was through Shakespeare. Sounds weird, but I'll connect the dots. In the famous Hamlet soliloquy that begins with to be or not to be. That entire soliloquy is a contemplation of self-deletion, because I can't speak like an adult on social media. He was contemplating the merits of taking himself off the Earth's roster. And one of the lines in that soliloquy refers to death as the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns. And that's a beautiful Elizabethan English way of saying nobody comes back from ending, so we can't talk to them. So the end, in my mind, because we can't verify anything, is just a persistent rumor. I don't know for a fact that I'm going to end, but it is a persistent rumor. And so that's what I named my podcast on YouTube, The Persistent Rumor. But here's what I believe overall. The way America is doing it doesn't work. America's not a great country. It's never been a great country, in my opinion. There have been moments of greatness, but even those moments are questionable because those moments didn't necessarily benefit the majority of people in America. I think a country is great, or can even be considered great. What's the criteria for even being considered a great country? Well, for starters, everybody has to eat. For starters, everybody has to sleep indoors comfortably. That's the baseline for me. Until you've accomplished those two things, you can't even be considered great, not by a long shot. Marginalized people are protected, not hunted down. Everyone starts at a level playing field. No country on earth can control outcomes. No country on earth can guarantee whatever level of success you think that you need in your life. But what every country has full control over is the starting point, the playing field. Is everyone starting at the same starting point? Is everyone playing on a level playing field? You can't weigh me down with laws that oppress me and then wag your finger in my face for why I'm not successful. You can't have the average Caucasian family earning $100 while the average minority family earns $13 at the same time and tell me that it's a level playing field. And what's crazy about all of this is that it's completely doable. There is not one literal reason why everyone is not housed and fed. Not one. There are no barriers to achieving that. None. The only thing that stops that from happening is cruelty and neglect and a lack of compassion. So you want to call me a hippie? Because I believe everybody should be housed and fed and safe to as much of a degree as we can control that? Call me a hippie. You want to say I'm a socialist? I don't give a fuck. It's doable. It's 100% doable. There's literally no reason. $40 billion a year sustained for 5 years would end world hunger. That is an absolute fact. Why isn't it ended? Why haven't we built the structures that it would take to deliver $40 billion a year worldwide for people to eat? We can, we don't. Until we do, don't talk to me about American greatness. It's fucking bullshit. When you take people that come here because their country is dangerous and they learn the language and they work hard jobs and they contribute to the tax base and they contribute to EBT, Medicare, Medicaid, Section 8, and Social Security, and then you tell them, oh, by the way, thanks for your contribution, but you can't take advantage of any of these programs. What the fuck is that? Don't talk to me about greatness. When the leading cause of a child's life ending is a weapon that you can go into a store and buy, don't fucking talk to me about greatness. Not cancer, not car accidents, not floods, fires, earthquakes, drought. That's not the leading cause. Those things are not the leading cause. Weapons are the leading cause. Come on. What the fuck are we doing? But anyway, that's it for now. Those are my closing thoughts. Thank you all for indulging me. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. This is Yoddah Live, and I am here Monday through Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Adjust for your time zone. And tomorrow, Saturday, if I wake up another day and I am able to come on, because I did skip last Saturday because I was just too exhausted to do it, but I do believe I'll be okay for tomorrow. If that is the case, if I am so fortunate to have that ability and opportunity, I'll be back, and tomorrow is going to be chill Saturday chill, and we'll talk about pleasant things. We might talk about films, music, comedy, who knows? All three. Who fucking knows? I never do. But again, I appreciate your time. All of you who have been here, especially the regulars who come back night after night. It truly means the world to me that you're here. So with that, peace, love, and granola. Talk to you soon.